Hi again, here we have Miss Wang from now looking at the face-on view. Having already looked at her swing from down the line, we'll take a look and see how those moves in the down the line view reflect what she's doing from the front view. You really have to always use two camera views if you're going to video a golf swing and compare. Some of the really important things is you have the camera positioned directly in front and at the correct height, and of course the camera has to stay nice and still, otherwise these lines we're drawing on the screen don't really mean too much. And you notice here I'm just drawing in some basic lines along the outside part of the legs and hips, the shaft and the head. Now Miss Wang has actually got pretty nice width in her stance. I have a preference that the left foot might be turned slightly more out rather than pointing sort of straight out there at 90 degrees. She's got the ball positioned nicely, so the back edge of the ball in the middle of the stance. I really don't like the ball to be behind the center, so I think this is a pretty good job. We take a close look at her grip. As I mentioned earlier, she has a very open club face in the backswing, which is one of her main issues, and a lot of it's to do with the way she holds the club. She's got a very weak left hand. The thumb, a little hard to see here, but the thumb points straight down the middle of the shaft. Right hand's pushed over too much to the left, so you get the V's in both of the hands pointing more up this direction, more to the left of her head, up towards that left shoulder. She's got her hands pushed a little bit in front of the ball too, which I would prefer the hands a little bit more above the ball. She does have a nice tilt in the body, head set behind the ball. Okay, let's run our example model on the right, Aaron Baddeley, to parallel shaft position. So this is midway back in the backswing. And then we'll do the same here with Miss Wang, my student from Beijing. Okay, first difference here, there's a fair amount of lateral lower body slide to the right, almost as if she's initiating her swing by moving the lower body laterally to the right. Now, I like the swing to start with rotation, mostly in the upper body. Lower body, of course, will also follow pretty soon after, but we want to try and reduce the amount of lateral movement in the lower body. I think it's perfectly okay and acceptable for the head to move slightly to the right in the backswing. I think most good players would do that, but you see here Miss Wang's whole body tends to move sideways off to the right there. Now, when she's in this position, when the shaft of her club is parallel with the ground, she's really got no additional wrist hinge at all. In fact, it's almost as if she's lost some wrist hinge in the takeaway. The left arm and shaft are almost in a straight line, which is a little unusual. At this point here, the right arm is still above the left. There's been some lateral movement of the head and the lower body. But I think the second part of this backswing is quite troubling in my opinion. Where she sets her arms at the top of her backswing, and we don't see the right arm at all. The left arm is in very close to, almost across her chest. The hands are very close to her body, so from this front view she's in a very narrow position. Describe this position here with Aaron as a position where it's got more width. So I really stress on my students as the importance of having width through here, from the middle of the chest out to the, say, the right hand or the handle of the club. You see Miss Wang's really got none of that. She's very narrow through here. Turns her body nicely, but I'm not really happy with the way she moves the arms. Now, what we don't see here too much because of the camera angle, but we know she's opens the club face tremendously in the backswing. Her arms separate out towards the golf ball, and then the club gets really underplaying. Now, another thing to look at is she actually starts with the club face open, so that's making it much more likely the club face will be open in the backswing. Make sure you've got that club face sitting down there behind the ball, nice and square to the target. So this is a lateral move in the takeaway with the lower body, very wide, almost uncomfortably wide through here, and the top of the swing is extremely narrow, so no width between the arms and the head versus the comparison with Aaron here. Now consequently, as she starts the forward move, as she moves into the downswing, she tends to do a couple of funny things as well. Notice here, really the first thing that moves towards the target appears to be her head. So her upper body is moving this way towards the target, and the lower body, a little bit of that, but not much. So upper body tends to move out to her left. Now the problem with that can be is that she starts losing the spine tilt that she once had. She started with a little bit of tilt away from the target over this way, and now as she's moving into the forward part of her golf swing, with the head moving to her left towards the target, this spine angle has been reduced and now in fact is tilted towards the target. Now you won't see that happening with Aaron. Aaron's golf swing is more led from the lower body. The upper body holds against that for a moment and then it follows down, so still got nice tilt of the spine away from the target. In fact, a little more spine tilt than what he began with. Miss Wang's definitely got less spine tilt at this point than she had at the start. So the reaction for her, I mean, she doesn't have a lot of wrist hinge anyway in the backswing due to her poor grip. And as she starts down, she just has no real option but to throw this club out. So she's got a very wide approach into the golf ball. The shaft of her club and the left arm have lined up prior to impact. Now that's never a good thing. You'll see Aaron, as he brings the club into the golf ball, the left arm is still leading the shaft. So you've got some club head lag here, led by the body. Miss Wang's got no club head lag, so I think we can understand why this lady would tend to hit the ground behind the ball. One of the reasons because she releases the left wrist angle early. The main reason she's doing that, there's actually two reasons. Top of the swing is really quite narrow, as opposed to nice and wide that we're looking for here with Aaron. And then as she starts down into the forward movement, she starts from the top of her body. Her head and upper body move towards the target, and invariably the reaction then is to early release or throw that club out, because really golfers who move in front of the golf ball and get in this position here really in theory would have a steep approach to the ball, would hit the ground perhaps too hard and send the ball off too low, but don't really see that very often. What you typically see golfers who make this move is they'll tend to early release the club out, you know, casting or club head throwaway, whatever you want to call it. And what that does is it prevents the golfer from being too steep. But it's very effective. It definitely will stop you from being steep onto the ball, but invariably what you get is the opposite, is you get too shallow. So the reason Miss Wang's hitting the ground behind the ball is in fact she's too shallow into the ball. She early releases the club shaft out, the left arm and shaft line up prior to impact. So there's a golf swing. The main things that we have done and we're still working on with this lady is, number one, the grip. She's got to hold this club better than she is now. Number two, she's got to get this face set squarely behind the ball. I would like to bring her hands back so the hands are more above the ball. Now from the down the line video I talked about the club head and shaft staying more in front of the body, the arm connection in the takeaway, the club face square. From this view, big issue here is the narrowness at the top versus what we see here with Aaron. There's a little bit of evidence of the first move is more of a lateral move or a slide of the hips, narrow at the top. Tends to start her golf swing by moving her head and upper body out to the left, so that's starting from the top. She's then forcing herself to try and get this left arm and shaft angle out, not intentionally, but it's more a reaction. But anytime you see this left arm and shaft have virtually no angle into the golf ball, there's going to be a real tendency to be shallow into the ball, and result in hit the ground behind the ball is the most obvious thing that would happen. So there we go, Miss Wang's first lesson. She's had 4 or 5 lessons since. She's starting to make some good progress, but still got some work ahead of her. If you like this video, this is the kind of thing we can do for you. Send your own video in, should get us a face on, and down the line make sure you give us some details as to your background and what your tendencies are, your swing faults, and we'll help you out improve your golf swing. Thank you.